introduce our speaker today. Alex Kajitani is returning to us for the second time this year. We loved him so much, we brought him back. He was able to speak to our schools that are participating in our GATES program earlier this year. So Alex is the 2009 California Teacher of the Year and a top 4 finalist for the National Teacher of the Year. He is the author of several highly acclaimed books and a leading authority on training teachers to teach both online and in person. During the COVID-19 shutdown, he created Wacky Math Hour, a free weekly online class that attracted thousands of students. He is also the creator of the wildly popular online program www.multiplicationnation.com, and his rapid mathematician songs and videos have received hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube. He is an acclaimed speaker, author, and was featured on the CBS Evening News, where Katie Couric exclaimed, "I love that guy." And you will too. So excited to welcome Alex. Take it away.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and welcome everybody. It is such an honor to be here. It's such an honor to be back. I'm so excited. I realize you could have had any number of famous people here today, and you went with a teacher. So for that, I'm totally honored and grateful. Then again, you went with a teacher, so don't say that I didn't warn you. But thank you so much. Most of my career, I've been a middle school teacher at Mission Middle School in Escondido, California. Here's a picture of some of our wonderful students. 85% of our students are Latinx, 10% are white, 5% are Black, 80% are English language learners, and on paper, we're considered a high poverty neighborhood, but we have begun to rebrand that as one of California's most culturally rich neighborhoods, because we absolutely are. And so as you heard earlier, I am known around the world now as the Rapid Mathematician. If you got to join us at the beginning of the year, I talked all about that. And like you heard, super excited that a lot of my videos are being used in homes and classrooms around the world now. And happy to talk about rapping all day long, but today actually going to focus on something a little bit different. Gonna start by taking you back even further. This is a picture of me in my early 20s. And after college, I had the opportunity to do a whole bunch of traveling all over the world. And so my travels took me to the country of Cambodia. And I had a chance to visit the temples of Angkor. And this is kind of the most grandiose one, the main one. It's called Angkor Wat, one of the big temples of Angkor in Cambodia. And these are just absolutely magnificent temples that were built for the gods, right? And many, many years ago. And so I'm getting to tour them and walk around. And so it's starting to get late in the day. And I get this idea that I'm going to try to make it up to the top of the temple and watch the sunset from the top, or at least as high as I can possibly get at Angkor Wat. And so I start, and it's getting dark, so I'm having to hustle. There's a lot more steps here than you can see. And if anybody's been there, it can be kind of a trek up to the top. And so I'm walking and I'm sweating, and I've got my big backpack on, and I'm determined to get to the top. And I get to almost the top, right? And I get to this last stairwell, and I'm starting, I'm walking up these stairs to get to the top. And I just get this overwhelming feeling that there's going to be somebody or something at the top which is going to teach me this lesson of a lifetime, right? This lesson that is going to be so profound and stick with me. And so I get finally to the very top of Angkor Wat, and it's sort of the end of the day, so everybody else has gone home. And I get to the top, I get to the very top platform, and there's a man standing there, and he's dressed in a robe. And I think, oh, this is it. Like I knew this was coming. This is my Yoda moment, right? This is it. This is the person who's going to teach me. I saw this coming. And so I walk over, he looks at me and he starts walking toward me, and I walk toward him, and we get in front of each other, and I bow to him and he bows to me. And then he looks me right in the eye and he says to me, "Would you like to buy a Coca-Cola?" Well, I couldn't believe it, right? And so I've been thinking about this, this epic journey, and how I get to the part where, the truth will finally be revealed, and it's just some guy trying to sell me a Coke. And I feel like that, this story is really symbolic of what so many of us have been going through as educators, right? We've been on this journey, like this epic journey of stops and starts, and we're hybrid, no, we're in person, no, we're virtual now, and we keep going around and around, and now we're supposed to sort of be at the end, but it's not really the end, and we're not really sure, and we're focused on what all of these things that were supposed to happen, and yet the reality is so many of us are feeling kind of lost, kind of disheveled, kind of maybe even a bit disheartened. And so what I want to do today is just spend some time thinking about maybe, not focusing so much on this end result, which isn't really the end. I mean, let's be honest, we don't even know what's going to happen next week, but instead maybe some of the lessons that we've learned along the way. As always, I have 3 personal goals for all of us for our time together. First, I hope you get some inspiration out of our time together. I know it's been a tough year, and next year's not looking much easier. So I hope you get some inspiration to just keep going. Second, I hope you get some implementation, right? Some real things that you can actually use as soon as you go back to your classroom or your office, an hour from now, things you can use next week or for the rest of your career. And of course, the third goal I have is no one sits there thinking, I wish Alex would hurry up. I really have to pee. So don't worry, okay? I'm going to keep it moving. I'm going to keep it grooving. We're going to end on time. I got you covered. I'm going to make sure this is one of those professional developments, not one of those professional developments. And if you've been around long enough, you know what I'm talking about. So along with inspiration and implementation, I guarantee no constipation, okay? That is my deep commitment to all of you. And so please remember, this is a buffet, not a fixed menu, right? I'm going to talk about some things. Maybe you're already doing them. Maybe you don't need it at this time. Maybe you want to try something new. Please don't try to, you know what happens if you try to get everything at the buffet? You're just going to end up with a stomach ache. So take what you need, try some new things, let some other things pass you by. This is a buffet, not a fixed menu. And what I'm super excited to talk about and explore today are really just 4 lessons that we've learned over the past year as educators. And whew, what a year it's been. It's been basically just over exactly a year since, we really went into this pandemic and schools started to shut down and we had to recreate basically everything that we knew. And the first lesson that I think we've all learned is that relationships rule. Okay, this is not new information. Maybe I should throw this in, right? Relationships still rule. They are the epitome and the framework and the basis for everything that we do and accomplish. And that's why I'm always so excited to work with Bar, because, there it is right there, the word relationships, a proven model that improves education systems predicated on 2 pillars, relationships and data. And even, just putting the word relationships before the word data is so critical. And so that's what I'm so excited. And so, what even is a relationship, right? If I had everybody define the word relationship, we probably have lots of different definitions, but essentially a relationship is a connection, right? You can have strong relationships, you can have weak connections, you can have connections that are building or growing or weakening. But what we also know is that strong relationships are really built on 3 things. First, they're built on spending time together. There are no shortcuts to this one, right? It doesn't have to be in person. It can be virtually, but we cannot shortcut this one. We've got to spend time with the people that we are building real relationships with. Secondly, it's the same thing I tell my students when they go in for a job interview. We've got to be interested and we've got to be interesting, right? We've all unfortunately had the experience where maybe we were involved in a relationship where we were very interested in the other person, but they weren't so interested in us, or maybe that was just me. But right, it's a give and take. Relationships, we've got to be interested in the people that we're in a relationship with, and we've got to be interesting as well. And of course, strong relationships are built on trust. I saw this definition of trust recently that I had to share with you, and that is that trust is confidence with the unknown. we don't know what's going to happen, right? We don't know what's going to happen next week. We don't know what's going to happen next year. We don't know what's going to happen this afternoon. But when we have trust in the people that we surround ourselves with, when we have confidence in the unknown and whatever happens, we know we're going to work through it. That's when true trust and strong relationships are built. And so, in every classroom, there's really three relationships that play out, every single moment of every day. And first of all, there's the student's relationship with the content, right? Believe me, I'm a math teacher. Let's just say I have a lot of students who come on day one who have a less than stellar relationship with the quadratic formula. And so there's also, of course, the student's relationship with other students, right? Very difficult to focus on the academic content when you've just gotten in an argument with one of your classmates. And then, of course, there's the relationship between the student and the teacher, or the education professional. And that's the one that I really want to focus on today, because that's the one that has the most immediate impact, and the one that we can control the most. Because let's be honest, right? There's what you think teaching is. To you, it looks something like this, right? We're Yoda, we're going to guide young Skywalker. Guide you, I will. But then, of course, there's what some students think teaching is. To them, it looks a little bit more like this. Same exact situation, totally different perspective. And that perspective is completely dependent upon the relationship between the student and the educator. And so I want to give you some real ideas that you can use. And so I want to share with you two approaches to building relationships with students, whether we're teaching remotely or in person. And by the way, everything that I have that I'm sharing with you, I pretty much took from other teachers just like you. So feel free to take a screenshot, take a photo, use the recording, whatever it is you need to do in order to help you. So first of all, how do we help students get to know you, right? You are a fabulously interesting person. Our students should get to know you. And then how do we get to know our students? And so here's what we're used to, right? In a traditional classroom all of these years, this is what students see when they think about us in the classroom as teachers. And then during remote learning, all of a sudden that starts to look like this. And our students want to know, like, who is this person? Who is this person who comes to me every day, or I've been getting to know, on this 12 by 15 square inch screen? And so how do we help students get to know you? Well, let's help them get to know your stories as well as your surroundings, starting with your stories, right? And the simple way to do that is just think about some cool stories about yourself. They don't have to be epic stories about the time that you hiked up Angkor Wat and learned a lifelong lesson. They don't have to be anything like that. Just funny stories, simple stories, things that our students can use, that we can use to help our students get to know us. Hey, work it in. Did I ever tell you about the time that I sat on that frog in Costa Rica? Or, this reminds me of that time that I got stuck in the bookshelf. Or maybe it's, be sure to be here on time tomorrow, because I'm going to tell you about when I dropped the watermelon on my foot, right? Just little stories. My own kids took an online science class. They still talk about Mr. Ben and how he once had to kill one of the world's most poisonous spiders as it was running at him, right? But then, since we're all teaching in hybrid or online, take it a step further, reinforce the story by creating a little poll, right? All right, over the past 2 weeks, I've told you some funny stories about myself. What was your favorite, right? Was it the frog in Costa Rica? Was it the getting stuck in a bookshelf? Was it the water balloon story? Reinforce the stories by just creating a little poll. What you're really doing is you're reinforcing that relationship and helping students get to know you. Helping students get to know you also means helping students get to know our surroundings, right? One of the great things that has emerged from remote and hybrid teaching is we've gotten to switch up where we lead class from. It's not always from the front of the room in room 12 at our school, right? We can switch it up. Maybe on Mondays, you're teaching your lesson from your kitchen. No, that is not what my kitchen looks like. That is a beautiful stock photo that I use. My kitchen is absolutely a mess, right? Maybe on Tuesdays, you're doing an ecology unit or a science unit. You can run class from your porch. Maybe on Wednesdays, you're actually in your classroom. You know, here in California, a lot of classes are going back to in person over the next couple of weeks. What if the classroom that the students returned to was something that they had been seeing all the time and could already walk in with that familiarity? And maybe on Thursday you're filming from a mystery location, right? Where you give a hint every 15 minutes and the students get to guess where you are filming from. I love this article. This is about a history teacher in Texas. This teacher turned remote learning into a road trip. What if I teach history from the places where it happened? It says a history teacher in Texas is giving new meaning to distance learning, racking up roughly 3,000 miles and crisscrossing the country as she conducts lessons from significant sites like Gettysburg and the Lincoln Memorial. Okay, maybe you can't pull off something this epic, right? But maybe you can go to significant sites in your hometown, right? Maybe you can film from significant sites around your community or whatever the case may be. So, okay, you've been listening to me for long enough. Let's share the knowledge here. I want you to identify two places that you could or that you've really been enjoying teaching class from. One place from inside your house, one place from outside your house, and in the chat, share it with us, right? Two places that you could or have been teaching class from, one from in your house, one from outside your house. Christina's going to read a few of them out for us. And if you were wondering, no, this is not my house, but I am slightly obsessed with the tiny house movement. And so I do hope to own one someday. So in the chat, go ahead. Where have you been leading class from, or where could you lead class from that you've been enjoying? And as soon as some come in, I'll have Christina start reading some of them out.
Screened porch in the fire pit down by the river. That sounds like fun.
Wow.
Laundry room in the University of Minnesota Arboretum.
Nice.
The base mount workout room in the deck.
All right, give us two more.
Living room and office, an office formerly known as second bedroom.
I love it. Very
Man cave and outside patio.
Yeah, there are many. There are, just as there are many definitions of relationships, there are many definitions of offices these days, aren't they? Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Help students get to know you by helping them get to know your stories and your surroundings. What about getting to know our students, right? This is very, very critical, so very important, and possibly one of the most important things that we do as educators, right? And so I have to admit that several years ago, I had one of the worst and most challenging teaching years of my life. It was not my first year of teaching, although that was difficult. Every year is difficult, right? But my hardest ever year of teaching was my 8th year of teaching, because at the beginning of my 8th year of teaching, I got assigned that class. Now, if you're an educator, at some point you've had that class. And if you haven't, it's coming, right? It is the class that made me drive home crying every single night. It is the class that seriously made me question if I had made the right career choice. And what was worse is I had just been named California Teacher of the Year, right? So everybody wanted to come and watch me and observe, oh, let's see what this guy's doing in his class. And they'd come in, they'd observe that class, and they'd walk out going, what's up? That dude's not that good, you know? And it wasn't until I heard two adults mention that my class reminded them of the old 70s television show Romper Room that I knew I had to do something. So I did what I felt any normal teacher would do. I totally blamed the students, right? I thought, hey, what's the problem here? I've had 7 good years of teaching, must be on them. I even found this famous quote by one of our most famous educators who said, our youth now love luxury. They have bad manners, contempt for authority. They show disrespect for their elders and love chatter in place of exercise. They no longer rise when elders enter the room. They contradict their parents, chatter before company, gobble up their food, and tyrannize their teachers. I was like, yes, that is exactly what I'm talking about. That famous educator, Socrates, 450 BC. You know what? It's not the students. It's not the students at all. This one was on me, and I had to own this one, and I had to get to know my students. You know, the one thing that we do not have control over are the students that walk into our classroom every single year. And they walk in, you know, with influenced by the different technological things, shows, music, pandemics. Every year the students are different, and it's on us to get to know them in order to build that relationship. And so I want to share with you what I call the Fab Five, right? 5 things that if you know these 5 things about all of your students, or as many of them as possible, you're good. You've got enough information to build relationships with students all year long, whether we're teaching online, in person, or in between. And so the Fab Five, right? 5 things we've got to know about every student so that you can build relationships with them. The first one is small and mighty, and that is that we've got to get their name right. Believe me, my last name is Kajitani, right? Nothing is more empowering for a student, especially with a student whose name is generally hard to pronounce by native English speakers. You know, nothing is more empowering than a teacher who takes the time to get to know them and say their name correctly. And then, like, take it a step further, right? If they're an English learner, if they speak a different language at home, just learn how to say one word, which is hello, in their native language. You only have to learn it once. And then, you know, every time you meet a student from that country or who speaks that language, you can do it. And then you get a whole lot of mileage with the parents as well. You start when you got to make that phone call home with parents by saying hello in their native language. Oh, there's the relationship right there. Get the name right, learn how to pronounce it, and if you can, learn how to say hello. Second, yeah.
Alex, sorry to interrupt, but there was a question in the chat box. If you could just repeat the quote that you said, I believe at the beginning of this, when you were saying about getting the name right and the empowerment.
Yeah. What was the quote you said?
Yeah. Tamara, I think said, I need that quote. Can you paste it?
Are you talking about the Socrates quote?
I'm not sure.
Oh.
Yes,
okay.
She said yes.
All right, I'll tell you what, let me go back. There it is. I'll even credit old Socrates there. Go ahead, take a screenshot of that or a picture with your phone. Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. All right, good. Very nice. And you can email me too. I can send it to you as well. So, all right. Secondly, what are the students interested in, right? That's all it takes, is just having a little bit of information about what the students are interested in, and then being able to work it into our lesson plans, right? As I like to say, stop trying to take the curriculum and forcing it into our students' lives, and instead take our students' lives and what they're interested in and see where it fits into the curriculum. I've just got a simple list, right, that I keep next to my desk. And it's just got all the students' names and something that they're interested in. And so when we're talking about surface area or square footage, I can just say, hey, Nico, Carr, you guys are really into Minecraft, right? There's a perfect opportunity to look into that. I'm so excited. I got to hear about all of the work, or a lot of the work, that so many bar schools are doing. So big shout out to the teachers at Salem High. Check this out. They have, let me just got to move something real. They've got, there we go. They've got hang on. There we go. They've got a weekly digital newsletter, right? Big thanks to Coach Candace. Shout out to Coach Candace for sharing this with us, right? And so through the BAR model, it says we're searching for the hook. This is the relationship that we can leverage to help our students move toward better success academically, socially, and emotionally. For some students, it's an activity. For some, it's friends. For others, it's an adult in the building. There it is, right? The 3 relationships that play out in every classroom: the student's relationship with the content, with their fellow students, as well as with the adult in the building. So huge shout out to the educators at Salem High and Coach Candace for sharing that with us. Find out what they're interested in. It pays off huge. Also, their living situation, right? Who are they living with? What are the challenges that they face? Do they have reliable internet? Are they able to receive mail? These are two things that weren't necessarily on our radar before the pandemic happened. Are they caring for others? And this was always one that we were concerned with. Do they have enough food? But again, you look over there on the right, and these are, I mean, they've always been concerns, but these are new concerns. If we need to send them something, if we need to get something dropped off at their house, are they somewhere where they're actually able to receive mail and have reliable internet? Fourth, right, we cannot get to know our students. We cannot understand our students without understanding their culture, their race, and their ethnicity, right? What is the language that they're speaking at home, the holidays that they celebrate, the values, the life experiences, and of course, the social justice issues that are rocking this country that we absolutely cannot ignore. And fifth, that mistakes are going to happen, right? Their mistakes, your mistakes, right? They're just going to happen. And so remember, though, that when we've got trust between us and our students, we've got confidence in the unknown. Whatever happens, we know we're going to get through this. Mistakes are going to happen, theirs and yours. Relationships rule. Let me stop really quickly. Are there any other questions that have come in, things like that I'd love to address at this point? Otherwise, I can keep on rolling. Anything else that's come in?
Nope, not at this time, Alex.
Right.
Oh,
very nice.
Yeah.
In that case, the second lesson I think that so many of us have learned, especially with regards to our students, is that quiet does not mean silent, right? When we first went and scrambled to move to virtual learning, I admit I thought, oh no, this is going to be a disaster for so many of our students who especially the ones who aren't normally participating in class. And what many of us found is exactly the opposite happened, right? That actually the students who are quiet in the physical classroom were able to really do some good work in the virtual classroom. This was a phenomenal op-ed that was printed in the New York Times a while back, titled "Why I'm Learning More with Distance Learning Than I Do in School." This was written by a 13-year-old, right? A 13-year-old student in New York wrote, "That's why I'm in favor of the distance learning the New York City school system instituted when the coronavirus pandemic hit." She goes on to say, "I've been doing distance learning since March 23rd and find that I'm learning more and with greater ease than when I attended regular classes. I can work at my own pace without being interrupted by disruptive students and teachers who seem unable to manage them," right? Not all of our students, I mean, one of the things that the pandemic has done is sort of shined a spotlight on, the gross inequities in our educational system, but it's also shined a bit of a spotlight on the fact that there are a lot of students out there who are really thriving and doing well, right? Pre-pandemic, right? Notice I'm not saying post-pandemic, because we are absolutely not in a post-pandemic phase. I would say, if anything, we're moving into a pandemic recovery phase right now, right? But pre-pandemic, our general notion of class participation looked something like this. Students wanted to participate, would raise their hand and then speak, when called upon. Since the pandemic, we've found, or many of us have found, that there are a whole bunch of ways that students enjoy participating, right? There's putting stuff in the chat box. There's creating these really cool videos on Flipgrid and then commenting on each other's videos and things like that. There's getting put in small Zoom breakout rooms or, online breakout rooms, and allowing them to chat from the comfort of their own home or wherever it is that they're from. And so, again, class participation has evolved into not just one thing or a few things, but to all sorts of different options and possibilities. Quiet does not mean silent. Another big shout out to one of our bar schools, the folks at San Bernardino High School. Coach Adriano was able to share this with us, that San Bernardino High is working to serve their missing students by committing to completing 1,000 home visits over the course of the next month in order to bring back students who have not logged on to distance learning. They also offer comprehensive free mental health support to every student and encourage them to take advantage of the service, right? Kudos, kudos, kudos. Just because a student is missing doesn't mean they're gone. Just because a student is quiet doesn't mean that they're silent. And sometimes they just need to know, hey, we're looking out for you. We want you to be here. And because we're creating a place where you can be safe, where you can be confident, and where you know that you are loved. All right. If you were on the talk that I did at the beginning of the year, this is the only thing that I'm going to show again, but I'm so honored to be friends with several of you on Facebook. And some of you wrote and said, hey, I see you're going to be speaking again. Could you please show that one video one more time? So it's always great. I've seen it hundreds of times and I never get sick of it. I want to introduce you to my friend Martin. Martin is a social science teacher here in San Diego, one of my good friends. Listen to what happens when he realizes that although some of his students might be quiet, they've got a lot going on in their hearts and in their brains. And listen to what happens when Martin really realizes that quiet does not mean silent. Turn your speaker up, sit back, relax for a remarkable story. Here's Martin.
My third year of teaching, we were getting ready for the 6th grade Olympics. This was a big deal at our school. There are close to 20 classrooms participating, and it's something the kids look forward to all year. I just took the time to meet with each student and ask them which event they wanted to sign up for. Now I could very easily just put out a clipboard and said, everybody sign up for your events, and that's your event, and it would have taken me a lot less time and a lot less effort. But I met with each student one-on-one and just asked them, what would you like to do? What are you good at? When it came time to meet with Eric, he was a special needs student who was mainstreamed into my class. He was often bullied around campus, very low self-esteem. I asked him, what can you do? And he said, the only thing I could do is throw the Frisbee a little. So I said, Frisbee it is. You know, that's what you're gonna do. And I want you to practice, and I believe you can do it. When it came time for the Olympics, my students were spread out all over the ball fields, and I quickly found Eric and stood by his side as Mr. Ryan would have done for me, and just encouraged him as he was getting ready to throw. And he went up and he threw the Frisbee, and it sailed just far enough to tie for 8th place. And he earned a half a point for our team. And we celebrated. You know, it was awesome. At the end of the events, the PE teachers assembled everybody in the quad or auditorium area, and they said with almost disbelief, in the history of the school, in the Olympics, they'd never had an event end this close. And the overall classroom winner for all the events was our class, and we won by an astonishing half a point. My students ran to the stage, and I was stunned. I really believe that I witnessed a miracle. I mean, there's hundreds of points over the course of the events, and to have us win by half a point. We went back to the classroom, and I said, I'd like to announce the MVP, who without their efforts this wouldn't have been possible. And everybody shifted to our pentathlete, Parker Stinson, who earned a gazillion points for our team. And to everybody's surprise, especially Eric, I announced it was him. And without his perseverance, we wouldn't have won outright. And he came to the front of the room, and everybody gave him a standing ovation. Probably for the first time in his life. And it's just taking that little bit of time to believe in them and to listen. And Eric's mom, a few days later, toward the last day of school, pulled me aside and said, I don't know what you said to my son, but for the past 2 weeks he's been in the backyard throwing a Frisbee against the fence by himself, over and over and over again, practicing. And it took me 2 minutes to sit down and talk with him and share that I believed in them. That's all it takes, and it makes such a huge difference.
Go ahead if you need a Kleenex or a sip of water after that one. I got you covered. Quiet does not mean silent, and especially in this time during this pandemic with all that we and our students have been going through, finding those ways to allow students to express themselves, ways that may not be traditional to, the quote unquote normal classroom is so very critical. Relationships rule. Quiet does not mean silent. And the third lesson that we think we've learned is that the answer to burnout is turnout, right? I know we've been going through a whole bunch lately, and burnout is something that is real. Burnout is something that is serious, and burnout is something that needs to be addressed. And so, yep, we're going to go there, right? And so I heard that there was a group of teachers that were trying to solidify their subs earlier this morning, grab some sandwiches so that you could be part of this. And so you're going to love this story. But a few years ago, we were facing at our school a serious substitute teacher shortage. Now, word had gotten out that our school was not a good school to work out, that the teachers didn't much care about the subs, that students were disrespectful. So they stopped wanting to come to be substitute teachers at our school. And so, so our administration came up with the idea that that the teachers who were there that day would cover on our prep periods for the teachers who were not there. And so, we were new teachers. We wanted to make a good impression. So we went along with it. And that lasted about, 2 days before we became totally exhausted. And so we did what teachers often do when faced with a very tough task. We went to happy hour. And so we went to happy hour after school one day, right? And we're doing what teachers do at happy hour. And the complaining starts, and we're talking, and someone says, why is it that subs don't even want to come to our school? And somebody else said, is there anything that's good about our school? And we sort of half jokingly said, well, we do have a great cafeteria staff that makes wonderful food. Now that was true, right? And somehow during our happy hour jam session, we came up with the free lunch for subs program. Very simple. Anytime you knew you were going to be absent, you'd tell your partner teacher, they would go into the room, they would greet the sub. Hey, we're so glad you're here. We give free lunch for subs, right? Really, what's that? Oh, I'll come get you at the beginning of lunch. So we grab them, we take them down to the cafeteria, we'd allow them to walk the buffet line. That's not actually what it looks like. No way, but it was really good food, right? We'd sit with them, then we do something revolutionary in school culture, right? We talk to the subs, right? You can always find who the substitute teacher is at lunch. They're the ones sitting off to the side, pretending to read the newspaper while the rest of the teachers sit at another table and talking and ignoring them, right? And then, of course, we'd fill them up with food. We'd send them back to class feeling absolutely wonderful. But word started to get around that our school was actually a really great school to be a substitute teacher at. And let's be honest, if you're a sub and you're deciding between two jobs, one of them you're going to have to pack a lunch the night before, maybe run off campus in a neighborhood you're not that familiar with, you're going to choose our school every single time. We then became the most desired school to substitute teach at. And I will tell you this, we all know what's coming next year, right? There's going to be a huge substitute teacher shortage. So we've got to start to put some ideas in place now to really make it worth their time to be a substitute teacher. At the core of it all, though, we turned out for each other, right? We came together, we took care of each other, we figured out what our fellow colleagues would need in order to make their experience better. We turned out for each other. And so what even is burnout, right? There's a lot of different definitions, but according to the famous psychologist Herbert Freudenberger, there really are three components of burnout. Let's see if any of these three are three that you're feeling right now. First, there's what Freudenberger calls emotional exhaustion, right? This is the fatigue that comes from carrying too much for too long. Have we, as educators, been carrying a lot for a long time now? You better believe we have. Second is what Freudenberger calls decreased sense of accomplishment, right? This is feeling like nothing that you do makes a difference. I'm here to tell you that it absolutely does make a difference. The problem or the issue with education sometimes is that sometimes we don't know what a difference we've made until years later. Sometimes we don't know what a difference we've made in a student's life ever. So I'm here to tell you that everything you do does make a difference, but it can feel like it doesn't sometimes. And if you're feeling that way, you're not alone. And third, burnout is what we call depersonalization. This is a depletion of empathy, caring, and compassion. Of course, I'm a middle school teacher, so I've got to put everything in terms of what middle school students can understand, right? So here's my middle school level definition of burnout. Burnout is when you're tired and you no longer care. If you are exhausted, but you still care deeply, chances are you're not burned out. You just might need to take a day off, get a little bit of sleep, attend to your own needs a little bit, and then get back in there. But when you find yourself not caring as much, that's when we've got to be careful, because that's when burnout can really set in. As we look at, this is pre-pandemic, the main reasons, the main sources of teacher stress and health. Look at that bottom one, right there it is. Teacher social and emotional competence to manage stress and nurture a healthy classroom. And although no big landmark study has come out on the effects of COVID on mental stress and teacher stress and health yet, we know it's coming, right? Articles like this that talk about educators teaching online and in person at the same time are feeling burned out, because there's that thing we're all dealing with, right? Of COVID. And then there's remote and hybrid teaching and learning. And then there are the social justice issues that are rocking our country and our world and our individual neighborhoods. And then, of course, there's everything else in your life that you lay there at night thinking, oh, I got to do this. I got to do this. I'm worried about that. I'm worried about this, right? It's a lot. It's a lot. So if you do nothing else during our time together, go ahead. Just take a deep breath and know that you're not alone. Go ahead. Come on. Let's do it together. Just take a deep breath. Come on. It's a lot. And you're not alone. I have to tell you, I was doing some research on teacher burnout. I found this article online, Teachers Suffering from Burnout. Right above it, a Google ad, become a teacher, 11 months. Like, woo, sign me up, right? Sign me up. Here's what we do know. According to Adam Grant in his wonderful book, Give and Take, 3 decades of research show that receiving support from colleagues is a robust antidote to burnout. Having a support network of teachers is huge. You know what gets us through the tough times? You know what gets us through the hard times? It is each other. As Jennifer Gonzalez says in her wonderful article, Find Your Marigold, that very first line says it all. Surround yourself with good people. Surround yourself with people that you trust, and we're gonna get through this and even get through it really, really well. Because self-care is great. Self-care is important. Self-care is critical, but self-care should never be one more thing that you have to do, right? Self-care should be never be one more thing on your to-do list that's stressing you out. Instead of self-care, the real key is moving toward caring for each other. And that's really the key to reducing burnout. It's not burnout, it's turnout, right? Maybe a picture like this freaks you out a little bit. Maybe caring for each other looks something a little bit more like this. Or maybe caring for each other looks like somebody sitting alone by themselves in an office or in a classroom on their computer, but creating and maintaining and building those relationships by spending that time with each other. Let's move from self-care to caring for each other. And that's when burnout gets reduced by turnout. One more big shout out to the educators at New Richmond High School. Their coach Soledad, big thanks for sharing this. When New Richmond teachers learned that their school was going full distance learning, the BAR teachers, with no prompting from the administrators, immediately moved to empower and support each other and included the non-block teachers in their afternoon BAR meetings, since afternoons were now dedicated to asynchronous learning. Look, taking care of our own is one thing, but expanding that circle and saying, you know what, we can take care of more and each other is even more critical. Big shout out to the new Richmond High School teachers. You're doing great work, and all of us who are bar schools and who are doing the work are doing it to the best that we can with the information that we have, and we're doing it really, really well. So shout out to all of you, because when we share our ideas, when we take care of each other, when we're not the only bright light in the room, right? That actually gives us energy. It reduces burnout and it uplifts the entire profession. Relationships rule. Quiet does not mean silent. The answer to burnout is turnout. And the fourth lesson that we've learned over the past year is, you know what? The future is hybrid. We're not going back. We're not going back to how things were. There will not be a return to normal. There was never a normal. Maybe there was an abnormal, right? But we're never going back to the way that things were. And what we know is that the future is hybrid. We've seen too much. We've experienced too much. Now the question is, how can we take the best from all of those worlds? You know who had this figured out a long time ago? Oprah. You know who had this figured out a long time ago? Alex Trebek on Jeopardy, right? Because they were filming in front of a live audience, but it was being broadcast into millions and millions of homes. That's what our classes are starting to look. As we look back on Oprah and Jeopardy, we can look forward into what our classrooms will now look like, right? With a live audience, but that it is now being broadcast into homes. And so that's one of the things that I'm super excited about helping teachers with is, how do we create these hybrid situations, right? How do we create an engaging in-person experience that can be broadcast into homes, whereas students sitting in the front row can end up being friends and building a relationship with the student sitting at home. It's also important to remember, right, that we can plant offline in order to grow online, or we can plant online in order to grow offline. I want to introduce you to Lynn Porter. She's a high school PE teacher in Williston, Vermont, and she started asking, what can I do offline to strengthen my online relationships? She teaches in a rural community in Vermont. And so she knew that, you know, she's a PE teacher. A lot of kids were going to have trouble or be hesitant to go out into their community, get some exercise. So she collected and painted 400 rocks, put a number on each one, spread them out all throughout her community, and then told the students, anytime you find them, take a picture of it or let me know, text me, tell me the number and where you found it. And then she's got an interactive map that she can place every single number of rock that was found on all throughout her community. And you know what happens? Parents start getting involved, aunts and uncles start getting involved, abuelitas start getting involved, people start finding these rocks. She's able to bring this community together and build this culture around online learning due to or based on what the students are doing offline. The future is hybrid. I was able to talk to Lynn. As you can see now, she's got the red hair to match the red rocks. Here's just a minute on a little bit more on that. Check this out.
What I've done is I have painted about 400 rocks that have been hidden around our community in hopes that the families will go out for a bike ride or a hike or a walk and find these rocks and then post a picture, and the rocks are all, the rocks are all like positive, like tomorrow will be a better day. They might be silly, goofy, you know, like a clothes hanger and a t-shirt and says, you know, you want to hang out. Something that makes the kids smile, makes the family smile, but be a positive experience for them as they're out engaging in the outside world with everything being so scary and daunting, honestly daunting.
I think daunting might be a good word sometimes, but hopeful is one that I think that we can be using as well. And so, you know, really the critical component here is to stop asking this old question of, you know, how do we take the old reality and put it online? When we first moved a year ago to virtual teaching, to online learning, to distance learning, we were scrambling, right? We were scrambling to say, okay, how do I take what I'm doing and how do I put it online so that the students can access it? Now that we've been at it for a while, it's time to ask a new question, which is, how do we build a new reality to best educate our students? And that's the question that I want to leave you with today. How do we take what it is that we do as educators? How do we take what it is that we know about our students? And how do we build a new reality to best educate our students? And how do we do it while we're keeping in mind and adhering to the fact that relationships still rule, that quiet does not mean silent, that the answer to burnout is turnout, and that the future is hybrid. I said at the beginning that this is a buffet, not a fixed menu. So let's finish up. Your exit ticket out of here today is, let's hear from you. What are you taking from our time together? What have you learned or confirmed that you can take and into this new reality of building a new reality for our students? And once again, Christina will read some of them out for us. So nobody gets to leave until they've put something in. Let's hear your exit ticket. What are you taking? What's on your plate? What are you trying out? Or what are you going with on your plate today? Christina, whenever they come in.
Take a deep breath, slow down, make sure I know my students in a more personal way, monitor burnout. Self-care is important. Turn self-care into caring for each other. Turn out for others. I'm glad I'm not the only one who sees that this is going to impact the way we work in the future. Know your students. Oh, they're coming in super hot now. Love the turnout concept. Be sure to talk individually, slow down, take care of others. Hybrid will continue. Relationships don't go out of style.
All right, give us two more.
Relationships.
It's so true, isn't it? All the technology in the world, and still that is at the core of all of it. So, look, I never, ever, ever want to be the teacher who you hear from, or the speaker who you hear from and you never hear from them again. So please, 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 let's be in each other's networks for the rest of our careers. Feel free to email me anytime at alexcaggiatani@gmail.com. You can also get a hold of me through my website or check out some of the fun stuff that I've posted on there. If you're looking for a good read, please check out my book, Owning It, which was, I'm super excited to say, named Recommended Reading by the U.S. Department of Education. Of course, if you know a kid or a group of kids who needs to master their times tables, please have a look at multiplicationnation.com. You can try it out totally for free. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm so honored to be connected with so many of you on social media. So please, let's be in each other's networks. I love to keep teachers inspired all year long. So, send me a friend request on Facebook. Let's follow each other on Twitter or Instagram. Let's make sure that this is the beginning of the conversation, not the end of it. It has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so very much. Let's keep doing the wonderful work that we're doing. And thank you, thank you, thank you. Back to you, Christina.
Yeah, I think
I'm going to turn it over to Janice.
That's all right. Sometimes Christina and I come as a pair. So thank you so much, Alex. I wish you had been my math teacher. I think I may have had a really good time in math class.
There's still time, Janice. There's still
okay.
time.
Maybe I'll call you up and we'll do some quadratic equations. So thank you guys for joining us today so much. Oh, someone wanted to hear some raps. I think they'll have to go to your website. I think there might be some raps on your website or on YouTube.
Maybe I can send us all off with one at the very end. You got it.
Oh, like an extra special treat.
Yeah. I'll give you a bonus at the very end. You got it.
Okay, I'll give you a minute to think which one you're gonna do.
All right.
Just note that in the chat, Christina and Ari have posted, if you would like a certificate for today's hours, feel free to fill out that form. And if you wanted the recording from today, some of you were asking, is there a PowerPoint or recording? We can send you out the recording. Just feel free to fill out that form if you aren't normally on our PLCs. If you're normally on our PLCs, we will send you the normal Friday email that has all the stuff you normally get from us on Fridays. So I'm going to encore Alex. It's like you're getting a standing ovation here. Our encore, will you give us a little wrap?
All right, everybody, thank you so much. It has been an honor. And so sit back, relax, let out a little smile, because the rapping mathematician is the hot new style. And why you looking at me like a teacher can't rap? Yo, I could write rhymes while I'm taking a nap. Mess with me, I'll give you lunch attention. And if you mess around, I'll arrange for your suspension, because you think my rhymes are sweet, or you think they're just a scam, but you would fail. Just don't fail my rhymes like you failed your math exam. No need for instruments or radio stations, because I could break it down like order of operations. My favorite sport is surfing. My favorite food is Mex. My favorite thing on weekends is solving for X, because math is everywhere, even in your salad bowl. And no, I'm not Latino, pero hablo español. Thank you so much, everybody. It's been a pleasure. Keep doing the work that you're doing. We gotcha. Thanks.
That was amazing, Alex. Thank you so much.